Hello students. Today we are going to start with the third topic of our first unit, that is basic concepts in sociology, and in this we are going to see the third topic, that is culture, definition, characteristics, aspects and the types of culture. Now to begin with this slide, first just see for this particular topic, the objective is to understand the definition, characteristics, aspect and types of culture in society. And after my explanation, you are able to define culture and you are able to define, identify characteristics, aspects and major types with suitable examples. Let's begin with this. Here today we are going to try to understand the meaning of culture. So students, we are going to understand culture. The easiest way to remember culture is nothing but it is a way of life of a society. So culture includes the way people think, behave, communicate, dress, eat, celebrate, worship and interact to one another. First, we are going to see culture is the way of life. Now here, culture is influencing our everyday activities and choices. To understand this, let me give you an example. The food we eat, the festivals we celebrate, the language we speak, and the way we greet others are all connected to our culture. Okay. Now second is here we'll try to understand that every society has its own culture. Now different society develop different customs, habits and tradition. For example, in India, touching the feet of elders is a traditional way of showing respect in many families. In other culture, people may show respect through a handshake or a bow down. Culture is a learned. Okay. So here culture is not something we are born knowing. We learn it from our family, school, friends and society. Now to understand this, I'll give you an example that how the culture we are learning, that with the help of this example, like a child learns how to speak their language, celebrate festival and behave respectfully by observing and interacting with others. To understand the culture is passed from generation to the generation. So older generation transmit the knowledge and tradition values to the younger one. Culture differ from society to society. So something considered normal in one culture may appear unusual in another. So for example, the food habit, clothing style and greeting practices can vary differently in different countries and communities. So culture is also helping us to guide our behavior. So uh, to understand the culture in a one line or overall, to understand the culture, so here we are having that we can understand the culture that is learned and shared the way of life of a particular society. Now let's understand the definition of culture. The first definition, these definition is given by the sociologists and anthropologists to define culture from a different perspective. Let's understand one by one. The first definition is given by Edward B. Taylor, and he is describing culture as a complex whole that include knowledge, beliefs, arts, moral, laws, customs, abilities learned by people as member of society. So to understand this, I'll give you one example. Like, think about a student's daily life, their languages, knowledge from school, religious or social belief, understanding of right and wrong, festivals, dress, customs are all the part of our culture. Then the another definition is given by the Arnold W. Green, and according to him, culture is socially transmitted system of knowledge, practices, beliefs, and artifacts. He's trying to explain that culture is transmitting, knowledge is transmitting, beliefs is transmitting from one generation to another generation. Then, according to Malinowski, culture is handiwork of humans. Okay, means through which handiwork means through which people achieve their goals. Okay, and to understand this, let me give you one example. Like, humans create technology, institutions, and practices to meet their needs. For example, online education, now helping the people to achieve the goal of gaining knowledge, while digital payment system make buying and selling the things easily. So to understand these definition, what Taylor said culture is a complex whole. According to Green, culture is socially transmitted, and according to Malinowski, culture helps human meet their needs and achieve their goals. Now let's understand the characteristics of culture. The first is culture is learned. Okay, so here we are learning the culture as we are not taking a birth with a particular language or the culture, but here we are learning the culture in our day-to-day life through our ancestors. Okay, then we are having the second, that culture is uh, uh, acquired, means that with the help of socialization we are acquiring the culture. Then third is culture is communicative. Okay, so culture is communicative from one person to the another and from one generation to the another. Through communication, knowledge and expression, experiences are accumulate over time. Okay, like grandparents may teach their traditional stories, recipes, or festivals to their children, or uh, yes, to their children, and these traditions can also be shared through the WhatsApp, YouTube, and other digital platform. And this is how that the culture is communicative, that we are uh, communicating our culture through one generation to the another, or from one person to the another person. So this means, as we are talking about the technology over here, so it means technology has also created a new ways of transmitting a culture. Even like we are staying in India and we are following the Western culture, or we are eating the Chinese, or we are having a Italian cuisine. So all these are that the culture have transmitted from one society, from one community to the another, and this is what like here technology played a very important role to transmit this culture from one society or one community to the another one, through or with the help of language. So, to easy way to understand or to remember the culture or the characteristic of culture, That is, first, that culture is acquired, that we learn the culture. Culture is communicative, that we share our culture. And culture is transmitted through the language, we are transmitting our culture. So students, culture survive because people learn it, communicate it, and pass it on to the future generation. See the classification or the aspects of culture. So, student, culture can be classified into the different aspect. Today, we will going to just understand the classification between material and non-material culture and overt and covert culture with a simple contemporary example. Material culture refers to the physical and tangible object created and used by people in a society. For example, building roads, furniture, vehicles, all are the examples of material culture which we can see. Okay, so material culture which can be seen through with the help of our eyes is called as material culture. Now example, a smartphone is a part of material culture because it is physical object created by human and widely used in modern society. Now, next is non-material culture. Non-material culture refers to the things that cannot be physically touched. It include beliefs, values, norms, customs, ideas, and way of thinking. So for this, I can explain you with this example, like the belief that we should respect our elders is a part of non-material culture. Similarly, values such as honesty and equality are non-material culture. I hope you have understood the difference between the material and non-material culture. Now let's see the overt and covert culture. So overt culture refers to the cultural elements that are visible and easily observed. For example, art, architecture, traditional clothing and festival and public celebration. Okay. Covert culture refers to the cultural element that are not directly visible but can be understood through the people's behavior and practices. For example, a person's religious belief cannot be directly seen, but their prayers, rituals, offering may express that beliefs. Okay, students. Now we'll see the types of culture. Culture is not same for everyone. Within a society, we can identify the different types of culture, which is based on the group that follow them and how they develop and how widely they are shared. Now let's see the first type of culture, which is subculture. And subculture is nothing but it is a set of values, norms, and lifestyle shared by a particular group within the large society. The group remains part of the main society but has some distinctive practices. For example, college culture, teenage culture, gaming communities, and workplace culture. College students may have their own slang, clothing preferences, activities, and social practices while still being part of the wider culture. Now, the next is counterculture. A counterculture refers to a group whose values, lifestyle actively challenge or oppose important aspect of the dominant culture. Now, for this, the example is social movement that challenge, establishes social practices and demand major changes in society can represent counter cultural behavior. Then third one is folk culture. Folk culture refers to the traditional practices that are usually connected to a particular local community or region and are passed from one generation to another generation. Like, for example, we are having a many folk song, related to the different traditions, traditional dances, storytelling, handicraft, or regional festivals. Then we are having a popular culture. Popular culture consists of cultural product that reach a large audience, particularly through modern media and entertainment. For example, here we can or you take the example of films or nowadays new like streaming of different shows online and pop songs, pop musics, memes, viral and social media trends. Then we are having a high culture. The another type of culture is high culture. High culture traditionally refers to cultural forms that are regarded by some group as refined, prestigious, or highly sophisticated. For example, classical music, opera, or classical literature, and certain form of fine art. However, students remember that calling one culture high does not objectively makes it better than the other culture. These labels can reflect social status and historical ideas about the cultural values. And the last one is low culture. Low culture is a judgmental term historically used for cultural forms considered less prestigious than the high culture. For example, some critics may label certain form of mass entertainment as low culture because they consider them less sophisticated. Now, easy way to understand that is subculture means different group within society. Counterculture means challenge dominant culture. Folk culture means traditional and local. Popular culture means mass audience and media. High culture were traditional viewed as prestigious and low culture means historically the culture is viewed as a inferior compared to the high culture. The important point is that every type of culture reflects the ways in which the people create, share and express meaning in society. I hope you understood this topic. So we'll finish with this topic here and we'll continue the another topic in our next presentation. Thank you.